Hello guys, C899 here and welcome to today's video, and today we are going through the official preview and predictions of the upcoming Pacific Championships. Now that the NRL season is now over the horizon, we can now get into some absolute gritty rugby league, which is obviously the international scene. With Australia now playing over in England in the Return of the Ashes series, there's a Pacific Championship Cup and Bowl up for grabs. We will go through each individual team, naming some highlight players, some debutants, and then we'll go into what I think will happen in the Bowl and the Cup competitions. So without further ado, let's start off with the Bowl and go through the initial teams of Papua New Guinea, Fiji and the Cook Islands. Papua New Guinea are the defending Bowl winners after a pretty decent display in their competition, winning 22-10 over Fiji before dismantling the Cook Islands to win their ladder because they don't have a Bowl championship final, which I didn't realise last year, but they did have the chance of getting promoted into the Cup competition when they took on New Zealand, but New Zealand were very much too strong. Now currently Papua New Guinea don't have a squad released, but I have tried to look at saying, would the Prime Minister's 13 count as a decent indicator of who the squad would be? And it kind of is. Obviously Zach Labour is out. Yeah, he retired from international eligibility back in January, so you've still got some pretty decent players in for this PNG team to try to defend the title. You've got the likes of Nene McDonald at captain, you've got Robert Darby on the wing. I feel the halves pairing of Finlay Blair and Gairo Voro is going to be interesting to see how that does play out, if that is what ends up being the halves pairing for this competition. Jack de Belin at lock is also going to be a pretty key indicator because you're going to have a bunch of play the ball, so he could be a key to try to break through the teams like the Cook Islands and Fiji. But yeah, it is a team that did honestly not too badly against the Australian Prime Minister's 13, and it's pretty much more due to the fact that they actually kicked a conversion unlike the Australians, which was, you know, pretty interesting to say at the very least. But I think this will be an interesting indicator to see, can this team go back to back? Moving on to a team that came second in that competition, we're looking at the Fiji Bati, and they have got a pretty decent team as they look to try to get some revenge over Papua New Guinea. Immediate players that are jumping out to me, you got Tan Milne, you got Jareen Buller, Kurt Donahue, Michael Jennings still going strong, which is brilliant to see. Sania Taruva as a vice captain, alongside Tui Kamika as a captain. And you've got a couple of debutants. You've got Kiresi Maya, Aquilangoro, Jethro Ranakama, Solomoni Sakuru. You got pretty decent players. Oh, you also can't believe Michael Vaca, because it's a pretty decent team. How this team's going to be lined up to be pretty darn interesting, but I feel like Dream Buller is going to be a very key attacking player, and Jennings obviously the veteran trying to lead the team, but I feel like there's a lot of exciting young gun players coming in through the Fijian side, which could honestly put a very big challenge on Papua New Guinea to try to defend the title. And last and certainly not least, we've got the Cook Islands, who have got a honestly pretty decent couple of players in there. Just immediately jumping out the bat, you got Pride Peterson Rabadi, Brendan Piacora, Ruben Porter, David Moal, Isan Masters, Makhesi Makatoa, Kale Iro, and you've got a couple of debutants, Tipo Stolzman and Cassius Cowley. It's going to be interesting to see how they do come into this. I do see that next year's World Cup, depending on certain eligibility selection, they could have a very stacked team, like a pretty decent one. I think there is a list of like Cook Islands eligible players, so if they do end up getting them, that's a massive get. But I do think Kale Iro is going to be probably the main threat of attack. It'll be interesting to see how it does go down with them taking on Fiji and Papua New Guinea, but we'll just have to see and find out if they can cause a bit of an upset, because I probably, not controversially, maybe a little bit, but I do think they probably are the outsiders to win this bowl, because there is no final. It's just straight up whoever has the most points wins. And now without further ado, after looking at the teams in the bowl, we move on to the Cup selection, and boy, this is a very stacked one as we look at the teams of Samoa, Tonga and New Zealand. Starting out with Tonga, who were in the final last year against Australia before Australia ended up getting the job done. And there is some boys to pick. Immediate players that jump out right at me: Stefano Otokamanu, Daniel Tupou, Robert Toya, Jason Tamalalo, Will Penasini, Isaiah Iongi, Felice Kafusi, all three Katoas. That's a lot of Katoas. Leah Hobawadi, Siliva Havili, Leka Halasima, Moika Fodawaka, Adam Fanua-Blake, and Paul Alamotti. That's a pretty decent call. And obviously, the other players I haven't mentioned is still very good. But those are the immediate names that come out to me. Like, this is a very strong team. It's definitely a sort of team that you're going to be like, ooh, There's going to be some more. The amount of speed and firepower you've got from some of these players is just absolutely unbelievable. And you've also got some muscle. Well, like a Halasima, I mean, he had an absolute breakout year this year. Just missing out on the Rookie of the Year to Robert Toya. So, I mean, honestly, if Tonga can hold on to players for their eligibility, they're going to look very strong, especially when it comes into next year's World Cup. And now we move on to the New Zealand Kiwis, who had to fight for their survival to remain in the Cup competition, but they were able to smash out Papua New Guinea in that match. But they have announced a pretty decent team, but they have been affected by a couple of injuries, kind of similar to last year, so we'll go through the team right now. The sole debutant of Xavier Willison, who is coming off a premiership winning campaign off the bench for the Brisbane Broncos, and some other players you can name off: Joseph Tarpany, Matthew Tomoko, Scott Sorensen, Isaiah Papali'i, Britton Ukora, Chancellor Cole Clockser, Ronaldo Mulatalo, Casey McLean, Jeremiah Marshall King, Moses Leota, Sebastian Chris, Keanu Keeney, Jermaine Osaka, Kieran Foran, in possibly his last ever bit of rugby league, which it probably will be, James Fisher-Harris, Phoenix Crossland, Aaron Clark, Dylan Brown, and Nelson for Solomona. And I basically did also bring in Nafasi White because for some reason I just didn't name drop him for some stupid reason, but there you go. No disrespect, Mr. White. I don't want to be murdered. It'll be interesting to see how this team does line up, especially in the halves, because probably with Jerome Hughes obviously having the Cowboy Bob Orton injury, basically he is not eligible to play. So I'm probably thinking it's going to be a 7 of Kieran Foran and possibly Dylan Brand at the 6. Phoenix Crossland, just as a Knights fan, happy he's in there. I think he did honestly pretty darn well last year when he was selected for New Zealand. He'll probably play in as hook or lock. He'll play anywhere, to be honest, because he's that good of a true utility. So much of a utility, I don't know how. The Bulldogs haven't picked him up yet. But yeah, it's a pretty decent team, but I feel like they might need to step up a little bit when it comes to this, because they've got two very fierce teams, and obviously they want to make that cup final. There is a lot of hype about this Samoa team, and I think rightfully so. Let's just go through it. Ata Mariota, Benai Aliu, Blaise Talagi-Suala, Brian Toto, Channel Harris-Savita, Dean Mariner, Francis Mollo, Isaac Targo, Jerome Luai, Jaden Sewer, Jas Tavaga, Jeremiah Nanai, Josh Papali, and probably maybe one of his final bits of representative football, we don't know. Junior Paulo, Larkin King Togia, Murray Talagi, Payne Haas, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Simi Tasagi, Talon, and Terrell May. Finally, Terrell May gets the respect he deserves. Wasn't considered in the New South Wales squad. Wasn't considered into the team of the year, but he finally gets a selection into the Samoan side. And honestly, just a bit of a controversial take. I think Samoa are the team to beat in this competition, because that's just an absolute stacked team. Like, this is going to be a team that's going to have a lot of fire in it, especially when it comes up against teams like New Zealand and Tonga. So it's just looking tasty. Now that we've kind of splooged to the teams, we are now going to go into what I think will happen in both competitions. For the bowl, I think the third round match is going to be the deciding factor on who I think will win, which is between the PNG Kamals and Fiji Bati. Kamals coming into this with the home field advantage, but Fiji have a week off because they have the game in round 1, and obviously there's no final, so it will basically just be the decider right there. I think on paper it would say that Fiji maybe have the better team, but obviously on paper doesn't matter, because it's like every time I predict them not to win this type of competition, they end up just doing it anyway because they're that cohesive as a team. But I do think that this luck might have to run out in the end. So, bit of an upset, but I think Fiji will win the Pacific Championship Bowl. Now, going into the Cup. Samoa weren't the greatest of teams when they came into their series last year against England, but I think now there is a lot of galvanisation going to happen, and honestly, like I've said earlier, they're the team to beat in this competition. Who do I think they'll play in the final, but I want it to be Tonga. I just think there's too much injuries in the New Zealand team, and also Tonga look beastly as hell, and I just want rugby league hooliganism and just bites, because this is the type of match where it does actually happen. And I'm also definitely not saying that because I'm going to all of the Australian matches of this competition, and I'd like both of them to end up being Samoa-Tonga. But who do I think wins this competition? I've said it a couple of times through here. I think Samoa are the team to beat, and I think they're going to be too good for this competition. I think Samoa go in this with massive perpetual motion into the World Cup. But yeah, I think Samoa are going to be too good. Anyways, that is the end of this Pacific Championships preview. Who do you have winning the competitions? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.